So, at a meeting of the PCC on the 17th of March earlier this year, the PCC approved our accounts and approved the reappointment of our independent examiners. Keith sent you a link to the accounts in his weekly update email, and they've been available on Church Suite since March. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask me at any time. Like everything in life, our finances have become significantly more complicated in recent years, but I'm keen to set out some key facts and thoughts for you as you start today to think through your giving to this church, particularly in the light of what Keith, Bethany and Richard are going to talk about in the context of mission and growth. In 2021, in our normal work in this church, we managed to put aside just over £6,000 for our general fund, roughly 2% of our 2021 income. So you can see we work with a pretty thin margin. We're very disciplined with regard to costs. And the fact that we managed to cover our expenses and put aside a small amount is a great tribute to all those in this church who made that possible. Today we're setting out a vision of what motivates this church, what this church is about, and what it should and could be about. The PCC of the church has approved and is fully behind the mission. The cost of this new initiative is around £100,000 per annum. You can see that compared with the few thousand we typically put aside in a year, this is a very big ask. How do we think this can be achieved? Really, there are four things which are under our control of the church family, which need to be working together if you buy into the mission. First, and most obviously, we need more people to be joining us, and thanks to the efforts of Keith, Richard, Anthony, Bethany and others, when you look around you'll see a lot of new faces. You even may be a new face, in which case, welcome. To achieve our mission, we probably need to be adding about 10% to our numbers year on year, and ideally those joiners need to be contributing financially to the mission of the church. This is a church which wants to do things and which wants to move forward. So this is the first thing, more joiners. Secondly, we need a higher percentage of the church family to be giving money to the church. Ideally, we want people to be donating regularly in a planned way. But of course, irregular donations are very welcome too. As a banker, I've always been very keen on irregular donations. The fact is, this church would be in a very poor state if we had not had wonderful stewardship over many years from individuals like Michael Porter and Doreen Hutton, who were very quick to buy into the parish giving scheme, a regular donation programme which now contributes more than 60% of our annual income. Many churches in Wiltshire, in the UK generally, simply have not grasped this nettle and consequently are today in a very difficult position indeed. Please consider giving to the church through PGS, if you do not already do so, but thank you if you support us through other kinds of regular giving, such as standing orders or the envelope system. Currently, in financial terms, 60% of the church family supports 100% of the work done by the church. This is typical for the Church of England, but is nevertheless something that we have to improve on if we're going to continue to grow our church. 40% of the church family do not support the work of the church financially. This is a number that needs to reduce. If you do not currently give to the church on a regular basis, please find a pack. There are plenty at the back of the church, and fill in the form and we will be in touch. There will always be people who cannot afford to give regularly. We fully understand that, but we want everyone to consider prayerfully what they can afford to do and what the right thing to do is. As with all good habits, like physical exercise or revising for an exam, often the hardest step is the first. But always these things are better started early or now, rather than put off to some mystical, hypothetical future date. Thirdly, this is 3 out of 4, so I'm not going on all weekend. Thirdly, we need people to consider whether they could give a bit more than they currently give. Could £50 a month be £60 a month? Churches are, sadly, subject to the same laws of economics as everybody else in terms of what things cost, and what might have seemed generous in 1992 is not as generous now. What cost £1 in 1950 would cost £26 now. What cost £1 in 1975 would cost £5.35 now. Costs have doubled even since the 1990s, so our question to ourselves has to be whether our giving has kept pace with our costs and with what we spend on other vital things. Eternal life is a vital thing. Really, we need people to be looking at giving, say, 10% more than they're currently giving. Once again, this is an average. Some people already give very sacrificially for the benefit of the church, and others do not. Fourthly, and thankfully lastly, there are the one-off donations which are important to our work and which make up around 20% of our income. These are from legacies and other one-off gifts. Because of their nature, we cannot plan for donations of this kind and we cannot rely on them. But the fact is that legacies and other occasional gifts are enormously important and need to be part of the mix that will need to come together if we are to meet the challenge of the mission and growth project which Keith and team will set out. So in summary, financial requirements of the mission are a larger church family, a broader base to those donating to its mission, an increase in the average donation per giver, and a greater focus on legacies and gifts. We know that for some, the increase in the cost of living will mean that you can't currently give more, and if that's so, we do appreciate that situation.